Yeah. So can you see the slides now?
Yes, I can see.
Okay. So under security valuation, we learned under the sources of finance, we have two main classes of what? Capital, and that is the equity and the bond. Now, after you have gotten your source of finance, right? Now, when it comes to security valuation, we want you to be able to find the price, the share price, or the capital price for each source. So when you take what? Equity, you should be able to what? Find the price for what? Equity. And then so when you take what? Debt or loan, you should be able to find the price of what? Share, the bond or the debt. And when you take loan and bond to, there are what other names that you can. It is not always what bond. Sometimes in some content you see debts, you can see also loan, debenture. They are all examples of what? Examples of debt and bond. When you pick equity or capital is the same thing. Another way you can also see capital or equity is stock or shares. They, they are all examples of what equity. And these ones, this equity, we also have types, components of what equity. We have a lot. Retained earnings, preference shares, common shares, and all of that. Right. So you should also take note of that. Now, after knowing this, you should be able to compute the total value of a firm. In calculating the total value of a firm, say that we have two methods of valuing a firm, and that is the book values. One method is the book values in the market of values. And what is the book value, or how do you find the book value? Usually, book value say that it is what? An accounting concept. So it uses the historic car or data from the what? The business financial statement. So if you want to find the book value of any firm, you can find that their book values, whether bond or what equity, on their financial statements, right? Because it's an accounting what concept. So if in accounting concepts, the only place that you can find it is their financial statements. It uses old values of the what? The previous financial statement values of what? The equity and the bond. To go to their financial statement, you can see their bond, their loan notes, debts, and all of that. You pick them, those values will become the summation of all of that will become your book value for what debts. When you want the equity to, you pick the book values on their financial statements, then you add all of that, you get the book values. So that is how to get the book values of each of the sources of finance. In other words, you can also compute that. but usually it's either they give it to you in a question that the book value of capital is this or the book value of bond is this, right? Then the market value, it uses current prices to value the firm, right? This is what current price to what value the firm, and it is all the sources of finance. So for the market value, you say that sum or the summation of all the sources of capital except retained earnings. Except what retained earnings. So when you are computing for the market value, the total market value for each of the sources of finance, you say that we should not add or we should not take the retained earnings. Because retained earnings is an accounting policy, accounting concept. Retained earnings, it does not reflect on what current values. It is historic. It is historic in nature. It can be found in the financial statements. It is profits that have been accumulated and has not been distributed to the shareholders, but reinvested in the business, right? So with that one, it is not current, it is old values. So if you are talking about market value as well, current prices, then we cannot add the equity components of the sources of capital. So the capital, you say that you have components of capital or components of equity. We have preference share, common share. Another name for retained earnings is what? Profits, reserves, capital reserves, or some contents you see earnings. Yeah, also the same as what retained earnings, right? So this one you'll be asked to determine the market values. To find the market values of each of the components, you should know their current price. And to know the current price in computing each of these values, book values and what market values, that is the essence of what we studying this topic, security valuations. So that's the essence of we studying this particular topic. So if you want to find the total value of a firm, say that you should add the equity value, the value of what equity plus the value of debts. But to find the value of debts, you say that we can use two methods. One, the market value. Two, the book values to find the value of the debt and the equity. So to find your total value of our debts using the market value, using the market value approach or method, it is the price per bond times the number of bonds outstanding. Number of debt bonds outstanding. So now, how do we get the price per bond or the current price? PO is the current price. So to find this current price, that is what security valuation will help us to know. So that's why we are studying this particular topic. So in this lecture, we are going to find the price per share, price per bond, right? The price what per bond or price of a bond, right? And that is what we did on Tuesday when we met. The price of a bond, right? Bond price. So this is the bond price here. If you take what debt to price of equity, see that equity is split into what two preference share what and then common share or what the that other one. Then the number of what bonds outstanding. So after finding the price per share or the bond price, they can also tell you to what compute the total debt values. Now after you have computed your total debt values, your number of shares outstanding is either they give it to you in the question, then you multiply it by the price that you have computed, then you find the total value of what debts. Now, if they don't give it to you, then you have to compute it, the number of what bonds using this formula, total value of what debts, total value of what bonds. So the total value of bond will be given to you. Then you divide it by what the face value per bond. So for every bond issue, the equivalent face value is 1,000. For every bond that will be issued, the equivalent face value is what 1,000. So if you want to find the total value of what a bond, if you want to find the number of debts, you have to divide the total value of what bond by the face value, which is 1,000. So they give the total value of what bond, then you divide it by the face value, which is for 1,000. Then you get the number of what bonds. So you get the number of bonds that will be outstanding for the business. Then to get the equity value, after you have computed, if you have your firm value in the question, if you have the firm value, the total firm value in the question, you have the total value of what's firm. You just do your change of subjects. Do your change of subjects from the general formula. Total value of firm is this. So if you have the total value of the firm and after computing your total debts, which is this, the green one, you just do your change of subject to get the equity value. Or better still, we can compute it if you don't have total value of the firm and you also don't have the debt value. Another option that we can also use to find the total value of equity using the market value approach is the price of per share times the number of shares outstanding. Number of shares outstanding. So always to find the total value, the value of each of the sources, it is the price per share times the number of shares outstanding. If it is bond, number of bonds outstanding, right? Then the price per share, the price per share, find the price per share, the price per share, right? If you want to find the price per share from this function, from this equation, you just do your change of four subjects to get the price of this. Since this, the number of shares is multiplying the share, you divide each side of the equation by the number of shares. This is the number of shares outstanding. You get that. And some question will also ask you to what? Compute capital gain or loss. In some questions, they can ask you to compute the capital gain or loss. To get the capital gain or loss, this one is usually for what? Shares. This one, capital gain or loss, is usually for shares. Usually for what? Shares or equity. From the what? The firm value. From the total firm value. They can ask you to find the capital gain or loss on the equity, the shares of what? Equity, or the share values of the firm, right? To get that capital gain or loss, you find the difference between the current price and the initial what price. So the current price is the one that we are going to what compute in this lecture. And the initial price, that one, it will be given to you. Right? This one is the what? The old what? The old price. This one is and this one is what? Old. So 30. So the new price or the current price. Okay, so this one is 0, well, and this one is Pn minus 1. So this is current. Current is Pu, and the initial is Pn minus what? 1. That's the initial. So the difference, it will give you a negative or a positive value. If positive, it will be a capital gain on the shares for every share. And if it is a negative, it is what? Capital loss for every share that will be your issue. For the bond, if it is a bond that you are dealing with, then the question that they can also ask you to find to rate the bond, where we studied last the other time we met, said that bond are what? Either issue or traded at what? Premium, discounts, or what? Right? So for bond, they will ask you to determine whether the bond that has been issued or is trading at par, discounts, or what. For each equity or shares, what they will ask you to do is that find the capital gain or loss. They find the difference between the current price and the old world price. Right? So under Securities, we are interested in finding the current price of each of the sources of finance or capital. So that's why we are learning this topic. Right. That's why we are learning this topic. So since last week, the other time we went through all these things, then I think we can move on and continue with the remaining aspect that we couldn't catch on. So we got to this place. Don't watch. So we got to the equity valuation. Now we have done with bond valuation, finding the price or the current price of bond from the total value of the firm. Now we are moving on to the equity valuation. Under the equity, you said that equity have been split into two for the sources of finance, preference shares and common share. So for the preference share, it is an equity security that is expected to pay a fixed annual dividend to our shareholders for its life. So based on the life of that share, we are going to pay shareholders a fixed dividends over the life of the share. Shareholders are going to receive dividends, constant dividends annually. Doesn't the dividend that you are going to pay the shareholders will not change or vary. So if today we pay dividend 20 cedis to shareholders, the next year you pay the same 20, the following year the same 20, to not change. So to find the price of such dividends or share, we say that since it's in line with perpetuity cash flows, then the method that we are going to use to value the price of that dividends or that share is the perpetuity formula, right? And here too, there is no growth in dividends because the same dividends is paid every year, so there's no growth, right? So we are going to use the perpetuity formula where we assume that the same dividend will be paid forever, every year. So with applying the perpetuity formula to find the perpetuity or the present value of perpetuity, it is the cash flow over the rates. Cash flow here is the cash flow here for the dividends the preferred dividends will represent the cash flow that we are interested. Then divided by the rates. Here the rates of dividends, a preferred dividends. They'll give you required rate of preference share. So when you divide that, you get the present value of the preference share. Get the present value for preference share. And this price is first we are going to use to find the book value of preference share. So if they tell you to find if they ask you to find the market value of preference share, after you have computed and gotten the price of the preference share today in today's terms, you just multiply it by the number of you just multiply it by the number of preference share outstanding so that we can get the what? The market value of what? Shares. Then you do same for the ordinary shares. You find the price of ordinary share, you multiply it by the number of ordinary share outstanding. Then you add the two, you get the what? The total market value for equity. Total market value for equity. So sometimes the preference dividends will not be given to you in the question. In such cases, you have to compute it on your own. This preference share dividend, it is what? In annual what? Terms for the entire year. Annual terms for the entire year within the 1 year span. Accounting year. One accounting year. So to find the preference share dividends, you first have to what? Get a total dividend in annual terms. In annual terms. To get a total dividend value, dividends preference share value. Total preference dividend value. You multiply the share, the dividend share was with. They give you the dividend share with. Then you multiply it by what? The book value. When you multiply that, you get your total dividend what? Value. You get the total dividend value. Now, after you have gotten the total dividend value, you divide it by the number of preference shares. You get the what? The number of what? Preference share. This total dividend value is for the, it's not annually. That one is not in annual terms. A year, maybe it will, if the share has a life of maybe 5 years, it's for the whole 5 years. That the total what? Total dividend value for the whole total what? Total 5 years. But with the preference share dividend, we want the what? The annual dividends. We want an annual, like we want the one that relates to us every year. So when you want to find the annual what? Dividend and preference dividend, you have to find the total what? Value for the 5 years. Then we divide it by the number of preference shares, so that we can get the annual what? Dividends or preference share that we need to what? Use for the computing the present what? Value. Right. So where PO is a current price of preference stock or share, then DP is what? Annual preference dividends. Then PR is the required rate of return on preference share. So when you are able to do this, you can compute your price per share for preference shares. Then when it comes to common share or ordinary share, we are seeing that with common share or preference share, we are going to use the words dividend valuation or dividend discounts models to find the price per share for ordinary share, because here ordinary share, it increases it varies because there is what? Growth rate here. Growth rate is not zero. So we use the word dividend valuation models. And the dividend valuation models, we have three ways that we compute or we use the word dividend valuation based on the growth of the what? The ordinary share. If there is no growth in the dividends, such that the same dividends is paid forever, we use the perpetuity approach. And that one is pretty straightforward, like the one we did for the preference share. The annual dividends, ordinary dividends divided by the rates, then you are good to go. But if there is what? A constant growth in dividends, or there is a constant growth in the dividends, then we assume that dividends grow at a constant rate, and that gene, the constant growth rate, will be what? Less than what? It should be what? Less than the required what? Return for the required rate. So in that case, the formula that we can use, right? It is the future dividends. D1 here is what? Future dividends. Future dividends, because we assume that was the dividend will grow. So if it will grow in the future, what will be the dividend for what will be the dividends in the future? That's why we have what? D1 divided by your rate minus the growth rates. You get the what? The price for the current what? Share. Current price for the share, for the common share. Right. In some cases, your D notes, if you are not been given, if they don't give you your D notes, the old dividends or the previous dividends, that is dividends that is just paid. You can use this formula to compute your dividends. You can use this formula to what? Compute your dividends. And payout ratio or payout rate is the fraction of earnings. Payout ratio is the fraction of earnings that is paid towards shareholders. Is paid as what? Dividends towards shareholders. The fraction of our earnings, retained earnings, the proportion of what? Retained earnings, that is what? Paid as dividend towards shareholders. So if you want to find the dividend that will be paid towards shareholders, you find that percentage of your earnings, then you multiply it by the earnings per share. The earnings per share, or price per odds, price earnings per share, right? So that you can know the dividends. So the price, the earnings per share, the value that you earn for every share. So how much do you earn on each share is the price per earnings. So for every share, the value of each share is what we term as what? Shareholders receive on their share is what we term as what? Earnings per share. So with that, you can get your dividend just paid. Then you can use it in this formula, right? You can use it in this formula. So when you move forward, we will learn how to find these goods with the gene, how to find the gene, the formula. So all these values in this formula, you can be asked to determine them if you are not being given. So one way you can find your D naught is this formula. Sometimes too, all the values can be given to you. You can be asked to determine your R, you can ask to determine your gene, your D naught, right? So if your everything has been given to you and your D naught has not been given to you, you can make D naught the subject from this whole equation. Or better still, you can use this formula to compute your D naught. So it is just a matter of understanding the formulas and what they mean. So that at any point in time when you need to do what the question asks you, we can't be able to go by that. Then the last thing is the differential or variable growth rate. So here we assume that the growth rate, this gene grew differently every year. So in the initial stage or period, there is a certain growth for the dividends. After this initial phase or stage, there is also another growth rate. So usually in the initial period, the growth rate is what? Higher. Then after this initial period, the growth rate was is very low. It's low. So always the Gen1 is for the growth rate in the initial growth or stage. Then after the end of the initial growth, there's another growth that will grow or increase the dividends. And that one to represent that growth rate as for Gen2. So how do we use this formula to find the share, the ordinary share price? And the step to go at it is this formula, this approach. You first of all have to compute or calculate the dividend during the initial stage. So during the initial stage, you grow the dividend, that's your D naught, by the growth rate using the future value formula. Future value formula. Then you find your terminal value at start of constant growth. So this one, there is more to that. Yeah, there's more to that. Then after you have done that, you discount all the cash flow to present. So always you have to get it at the back of your mind that present value, the price of each share or bond, we are seeing that she was find the price of a bond or equity is the present value of all the benefits or the cash flows. So at the end of the day, when you are done with these all things, you need to discount them, your cash flow towards period zero, so that you can get the actual current price, right? Because from the value of equity and value of what bond, we are seeing that it is the current price. So if current price, so that means that it is today. If today, if you are in the future, to get a present, we need to discount. Use the concept of discounting to get the current price of the bond or the share or the equity that we want to. Okay, so this one I'll explain it better when we start solving question. Right. So now we are going to learn how to compute the growth rates, the gain in the formulas. How do we compute it? Right. Some question will ask you to find the gain in the question, and it's very crucial. You definitely have to compute it. Right. So there are two methods for estimating the growth rates. These are as follows. We have the arithmetic or average method. Here, to use this, if in the question you have past dividends, you have data relating to your past dividends, then you can use this arithmetic method to find your growth rate. Right. Yeah. So in using this, we just use it uses the compounding future value. Compounding future value. So the compounding future value is this. So this formula is gotten from this. So if you want to find the compounding future, yeah. Hello.
There's getting plenty on my eye top. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I said now it is getting plenty. So
So this formula, right, is gotten from this formula. So we say that it uses the compounding future value formula. So if you want to find your future value, this is how to find it. So your present value multiplied by your 1 plus what I so this is gotten from this value. This is gotten from this. So you want to find this. The gene will represent this I in the formula. Right, so when you make the I the subject in this, you get this thing. Get that. So to explain the values or the variables. The DN is the future what value, the future what dividends, right? And the D naught is the current what dividends. So both the current dividends and the future dividends will be given to you in the question. And your 1 minus 1 over n is what? The number of years. So the number of years, you do it 1 divided by maybe it's 2 years or 5 years. So bring the 5 under. The 5 will be the number of years minus what? The whole expression minus what? 1. When you do that, you get your growth rates, and to you can use it what in this formula. You can use it in this formula to find your what your price of what the share that you want to compute. Then another way, if you don't have past dividends and you have your retention ratio and then your interest rates, return rates, you can use the Gordon's growth what model. So this one uses retention ratio. So in the question, if you have your retention ratio and your return rates, then you can use this formula to find your gene. Right? And how do you find your retention ratio? You find your retention ratio. You say that your payout ratio plus your retention ratio is always equal to 100 or what? 100 or what? 1, 1, 100 or what? 100% or what? 1. So if you have this and you want your retention ratio, you just make change of subjects. So retention ratio is 1 minus what? Payout ratio. Right, 1 minus payout ratio. So if 1 minus payout ratio is your retention ratio, how then do we find payout ratio? If you are not giving payout ratio, how do you find? And what then is what payout ratio? Payout ratio is what? The fraction of earnings paid out as pay as what? Dividend to our shareholders. The proportion of what? Your earnings that is paid towards shareholders. Shareholders. So to get that payout ratio is your dividends divided by your earnings per share. So to get the payout ratio, the dividends, annual dividends divided by the earnings per share, you get your payout ratio. And to find your retention ratio or plowback ratio is also the fraction or the proportion of or the percentage of earnings retained by the firm, right? Invested, reinvested, right? Fraction of earnings retained by the firm and reinvested. Their business, right? So to get that retention ratio, So after you have paid out your ratio, you have paid pass or proportion of your what? Your earnings to shareholders. The remaining part of your earnings is what you are going to retain. So to know that, the formula to use is your earnings per share divided by what? You subtract the fraction that you have paid out as what? Dividends. The fraction of your earnings that you have paid out as dividends from your total earnings. The remaining is what? Is your what? Retention ratio. So when you do this, you get this second one, right? Because one earnings per share divided by dividends over earnings per share minus dividends divided by dividends, earning per share can be rewritten as what? Because this earning per share is dividing the first earning per share, at the same time dividing the dividends, right? So when you split it, come earnings per share minus divided by earnings per share minus dividends divided by earnings per share. This one will cancel themselves. We get what? 1 minus dividend divided by what? Earnings per share. And dividend divided by earnings per share is what? Payouts ratio. So that is how come we had 1 minus what? Payouts what? Ratio. If you want to find your retention was ratio. Then the last method we can also use to find your rate is what? Sustainable was goods. Sustainable goods rates. And with this sustainable goods rates, it is the same as the other method that we wanted to use. We use. So it is that one. It's your return on what? Equity times the retention was ratio. Return on what? Equity, ROE, times retention was ratio. Then you get your growth was rate to be used for computing your price of what? Equity. So we are done with the notes. Do you have any question? Hello.
Yes.
Do you have any question for me?
Mm, oh, take my time and go to the form first. Mm.
Yeah, so read question 7 for me.
Okay, so should I pronounce FA or FA? It's FA.
Yeah, Effie.
Mm. PLC. FA PLC is a manufacturing company that has recently developed an innovative new range of equipment that is expected to lead to the company growing rapidly. It is expected that the company will grow as 30% per annum for 4 years. Over time, as the market share of this new equipment increase, the firm growth rate will reach a steady state. At that point, the firm may grow at 3% per annum. Assume that the market required rate of return on the stock is 12%. The firm most recent bracket year zero dividend was 12 cedi per share. You anticipate that the firm will increase the dividend by 30% per annum for the next 4 years. And after that, the dividend will grow at 3% per annum indefinitely. Using the variable growth model, calculate the present value of FA's share.
Okay, continue with the next
The
part.
B, the projector, the, the projected free cash flow for PBL over the next 5 years are as follows. Assume 2025 is a year one. Okay.
It's year one.
It's year one. Sorry. The first one is what? Car.
So cars, yeah, cars in T.
Okay. Car C.
Then read read the this thing.
This
Beyond
one.
2000.
Beyond 2029 to infinite, the company expects its cash flow to grow by 4% per annum. The company's cost of capital is 15%. Calculate the corporate value of PBC's PLC using the free cash flow valuation. PBC currently has 10% corporate bonds in issue with a total face value of 10 million. Each bond has a face value of 100 cedis. The coupon payment on the bond is 10% per annum, and the bond is due to mature in 2029. This means that Reunion PLC has 5 years of interest payments left to maturity 2025, 2026 to 2029. In 2029, Reunion PLC will have to repay the 10 million 100 cedis to each bond holder to its debit investor, given that the next best alternative investment of its debit holder is presently 6%. Calculate the current price of each bond. Given the current price of the bond, what is the total value of PBC debt? Given the PBC has 10 million shares, calculate the current share price of PBC.
Sugar. Hello. Hello.
Yes, yes,
Are you done?
yes. Oh,
Okay,
I
I'm
thought you were
done.
marking something.
So, yeah, I'm coming. Yeah, so let's start working on that. So, question number 6. Question 7.
It's
Value.
7.
Yeah, question 7. So from the question, let's list the items that you'll be using. We have Gene 1. That's the initial goods. Gene 1. Gene 1 is 30%.
30%.
And Gene 2 is at that point the firm
3%.
may at 3%.
That point, firm may at 3%.
Assume that the market required rate of return is 12. So market return is what? R is what? R is 12%. And then what's again? Taking this. The famous recent year one dividends was, so what will be this one? Is it D0 or D1? Low.
Which one, please?
The two
Which
series
one
per.
are you talking about?
The firm's most recent year zero dividend was 2 cedis per share. Is it D1 or D0? This one.
So recent is D1, right? Current.
Current. D1 is future.
Yes, so
It's future.
D1 is D0 is the current one.
Yeah. So D0 is 2. You anticipate that the firm will grow, it will increase the dividends by 30% per annum for the next 4 years. So the next 4 years, you are going to grow the D0 by the 30% up to year 4. Right? From So we are expecting that 2025 is the first year. So if 2025 is the first year, then 2024 is the starting year. And that 2024 is the price. The price of the bond is what they are giving to us. Right? The price of the bond is what they are giving to us. So we grow price to 2 cedis by the what? The June 1 to what? Up to what? The 4 years. So when you get to what 4 years, then you also after the dividend will go after that the dividend will go at 3% per annum indefinitely. So indefinitely here you will grow it by the perpetuity what rate which is Gen 2, right? So always when you have what variable growth model, we have what we have the initial growth, and we also have the after the initial growth rate. So with that one, let's find our D1. To find our D1, this is the formula we are going to use. D naught. We are using the future value formula to grow the dividends into the future. So our D1 plus our D1 equals to what D naught times 1 plus what times 1 plus 1 plus G over N. So this will be the formula that we are going to use to find our D naught. D1. So our D1 is equal to what? D naught is what? 2 times 1 2 cedis. The growth rate is the G1. Let me use this one is what? G1. So G1 is what? 8%. The first year, so it will be 1. When you do that, what will be the value for that year? Go to your year 2. Year 2 to 2 cedi. Then the G1 is what? 30. And year 2, N will be 2. Please, are you calculating it for me? Hello. Hello. Madam, Evelyn, are you there?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so calculate it for me. Let's
I calculate them. So the D2, I skipped the one, so I'll give you the two list. The D1 is 2.6.
2.6.
Yes. And A. And the
3.
D2 is the D2 is 3.38. D3 4.39. There's
4.
third figure. Should I mention or I should leave it at 2? Like
You said
4.394. I said there is a third figure. Should I
2.
mention or I should leave it at
Yes, it's okay. That one is okay.
okay. For 5.71. And the so D5 will be D4 into bracket 1 and J2. So please, it will be the answer of D4, right?
Yeah. Then
That's all.
you multiply it by the 1 plus gene 2.
Okay.
We are going it by the what? The gene 2. And this value will be forever. So from after the D4, we said that the dividend will grow indefinitely by the gene 2. Right? So from here,
Please,
from
please the D4 no, the last figure and you wrote only one no. Or it's okay.
no, I've mistakenly deleted it. Is that all? Is that it?
Yes. Yeah. So
So after the D4, the year 4, this value, this
mm,
value, we said that
yes.
we should what? Grow that dividends by the Gene 2 indefinitely, forever. And what does that mean? So that means that from year 4, after year 4, perpetuity will set in. So if perpetuity will set in, we are going to grow this 5.51, 5.71 by what? The Gene 2 forever, forever, forever. So with that one, to get your year 5 upwards dividends from year 5 towards infinity, it will be the D4 dividends multiplied by the 1 plus Gene 2 exponent what? 1, right? Hello.
Okay. So it means that 5.71 will be the D4, then bracket 1 plus the G2 will be 3%.
Yep.
Brackets, yeah, exponent 1. Okay.
Yeah. So do that for me. Let me see what value we are getting.
Zero 3 brackets exponent 1. So to be 5.88.
5.88. Yeah. So this one, it will grow forever. Right. This value will grow forever from year 5 towards infinity. So now this value, since it is for perpetuity, we have to what? Discount it what? Back to what? The nearest what? Year. And this value will give us what we call the terminal value at the end of the 4th year. Because this one is what? In perpetuity, we need to find the terminal value of the dividends at year 4, right? This value is the what? The terminal value. So at the end of year 4, you have what you call, at the end of year 4, you have what you call terminal value. So terminal value is the last cash flow, the last year. Terminal value always exists at the last year, right? And the beginning balance is the what? The D naught. D naught is the beginning value, and the terminal value is the what? The value at the end of year 4. That's the value. But as of now, we don't know, and that terminal value is the price at the end of year 4. So to find the price at the end of the year 4, we apply the concept of what? Perpetuity, right? We apply the concept of perpetuity to find the price of year 4. So when you find that price at the end of year 4, you add it to what this dividend value, the D4 dividend value. You add it together, then you now discount all the D1, D2, D3 to D4 to your presence. Because this D5, we are not interested in it. It is in perpetuity. We are not interested in it. So we need to find the price of the dividends at the end of year 4. Right? And this is what the approach was trying to explain to us. If you are applying the no, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so steps to follow. Calculate dividend during initial growth using the present, the future value formula. Find the terminal value at start of constant growth. So the constant growth is the what? The gene 3, the gene 2. And that one will grow forever, constantly. Right. So you need to find a terminal value at the start of the constant growth. Or at the end of, so this one is at the end of what? Made a mistake. At the end, or at the start of the terminal value at the start of the constant growth, or at the end of the initial growth. At the end of terminal value at the end of the initial growth phase. Then after you are done that, you discount all the cash flows to present. So that's what we need to do now. So doing that, find the terminal value. Terminal value is the odds. Okay, price at year 4 at D4. We are going to use this formula. We are going to use this formula D5 over R minus gene 2. And this will give us price at year 4. Price at year 4. You are the price at year what? Year 4. We are using this formula because that value, that D5 is what? Is a perpetual what value. The perpetual what value. That's why we are subtracting the growth rate too from the d the the required the required what the required what rate. The growth rate is constant. So D5 is for 5.88 divided by the gene 2, divided by the rates minus what? The gene 2. Growth rate is 3%. So when you do this, you get a price at year 4. Which will give us 6.65.7 65.37. Hello, 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 hello. So now we are going to discount D1 to D4 to present.
Hey, I fall asleep.
So we found now so we are inclusive. Yeah, so this will be the formula we are going to use to discount all the dividends, right, to 0. But don't forget that there is also a terminal value that we are going to add towards D4. That is the price for. So can you give me the values for the various? So D1 is what? 6.2.06260, and the rate is the required return is 12. And D2 is also 3.38. Then the required return is 12%. D3 4.39. 12% required returns. Then D4 is 5.71 plus 6.537. Okay. Hello.
Yes. I,
Oh, no.
I'm weak. I'm lost. Oh, hey, plenty.
Punchman was mentioned. When you are done this one, you close. You are tired. You are tired.
You are not tired. I'm sleeping. Hey, so I'm starting from P.
So
The
this
first
one,
one.
yeah.
I'm doing it one after the other. Oh,
Oh, punch everything on the calculator.
everything.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey, best W.
me na me that now me person.
Is that a virtue?
So it's 553.31.
53
Point 30.
Okay, so this will be the price of the bond. The price of the share, sorry, the price of the share. Okay. So we are done with the part A. We continue later since we are all exhausted. Continue later.
Okay, nice. Thank you.
So yeah, good night. Later we continue.